Okay, what if I told you there's a river out there that could literally cook you alive? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but picture this. You're deep in Peru's Amazon rainforest, standing right at the edge of the Chennai Tempishka. You're looking at a river flowing with water so intensely hot, it actually reaches 200 degrees Fahrenheit. That is just shy of boiling, and this thing stretches for nearly 4 miles right through the dense jungle. Any animal that falls in, instantly cooked. But here's the crazy part. There isn't a volcano for 400 miles. Instead, these massive geothermal springs from deep underground are creating this deadly, absolutely wild natural phenomenon. Welcome to Earth Unveiled, the explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into the most unbelievable, reality-shattering geography facts on our entire planet. We're talking discoveries so bizarre, and honestly, some so recent, that they are going to completely change how you see the world around us. From just staggering, hard-to-comprehend scale to mind-bending illusions, Earth has been hiding some serious secrets from us all along. Let's get into it. All right, let's kick things off with Chapter 1, Earth's Extreme Elements. So, on one extreme, we have Oymyakon, Russia. This is the coldest permanently inhabited place on Earth. We're talking temperatures that regularly plummet to negative 60 degrees Celsius. It's literally so freezing that residents have to keep their car engines running constantly, and yep, even vodka freezes solid there. But then flip to the completely opposite end of the spectrum, and you've got the Kola Super Deep Borehole. This is a man-made void plunging over 12,000 meters straight down into the crust. Down there, temperatures hit a blistering 180 degrees Celsius, which is so hot that the ancient rock literally starts acting like plastic. But sometimes these extreme environments are actually born from massive human mess-ups. Back in 1971, Soviet engineers were drilling in Turkmenistan when the ground completely collapsed underneath them. This created a massive crater that started leaking methane gas. Hoping to prevent a huge environmental disaster, they figured, hey, let's just set the gas on fire, it'll burn off in a few days, right? Well, over 50 years later, this 70-meter-wide door to hell is still blazing continuously. It is a permanent, fiery monument to a single engineering mistake. Moving right along to Chapter 2, Hidden Worlds Below Us. Now, you might think you know all the continents, right? Well, get this. There is an entire massive continent out there called Zealandia, and it is twice the size of India. But there's a catch. 94% of this enormous landmass is completely submerged beneath the Pacific Ocean. Only a tiny 6% sliver actually peaks above the waves, which is what we know today as New Zealand and New Caledonia. Zealandia broke away from Australia about 85 million years ago and just slowly sank. It's literally a lost world hiding in plain sight, and incredibly, it was only officially recognized in 2017. And our planet's underground holds some wonders that completely defy logic. For example, did you know that beneath the Black Sea, there lies a massive underwater river? It comes complete with its own waterfalls, rapids, and riverbanks. If you put it up on the surface, it would be the sixth largest river in the entire world by volume. And meanwhile, over in Vietnam, there's the Son Tung Cave. It was discovered in 2009, and it is so ridiculously enormous that you could comfortably fit an entire 40-story skyscraper inside its main chamber. It even has its own internal weather system with actual clouds and jungles inside the cave. Next up is Chapter 3, Mind-Bending Geographical Illusions. If you're ever flying off the coast of Mauritius and you look down, you're going to see what looks exactly like a massive waterfall plunging deep under the ocean's surface. But actually, scratch that. It is a brilliant optical illusion. Here's what's really happening. First, sand and silt deposits gather on the sea floor. Then, powerful ocean currents push all those deposits over a dramatically steep underwater shelf drop-off. It perfectly tricks your eyes into seeing water falling into an abyss, when in reality, it's just sand sliding down the ocean floor. Nature is pretty clever, isn't it? And in the Philippines, you'll find what I like to call the ultimate geographical Russian nesting doll. So follow me on this one. You start on Luzon Island, which holds Taal Lake. Inside that lake, there's Taal Volcano Island. Inside that island is Crater Lake. And finally, sitting right smack in the middle of Crater Lake is Vulcan Point. So that's an island within a lake on an island within a lake on an island. Formed by millennia of complex volcanic eruptions, it honestly bends the mind just trying to map the whole shebang out. Now imagine standing in a place where the earth perfectly reflects the heavens. The Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia is this vast, stark landscape of hexagonal salt patterns during the dry season. But during the rainy season, a super thin layer of water covers the flat ground, transforming the whole area into the world's absolute largest mirror. It reflects the sky so flawlessly that it creates an infinite horizon. It is so perfectly flat and reflective that scientists literally use it to calibrate the sensors on orbiting satellites in space. No way, right? Let's shift gears for Chapter 4, Bizarre Human Settlements. It's fascinating to look at the sheer contrast in how people live. Take Whittier, Alaska. You have an entire vertical city of nearly 200 residents living inside a single 14-story former military barracks. The grocery store, school, clinic, it's all under one roof so they can completely avoid the brutal Alaskan winters. Now, compare that to Monowi, Nebraska, which has a population of exactly one person. Her name is Elsie Eiler, and she is the town's sole resident. She acts as the mayor, the bartender, and the librarian, running an entire one-woman government completely by herself. And down on Lake Titicaca in Peru, the Uros people have lived on literal floating islands for over 5 centuries. But these islands aren't made of earth or rock. They're woven entirely by hand using totora reeds. Now, because the reeds naturally rot from the bottom over time, the islands have to be constantly rebuilt by adding new layers to the top. And the absolute coolest part, if the community needs to relocate, they can literally untie their entire island and just move it across the water. Finally, we arrive at Chapter 5, Nature's Extremes and Mysteries. Over Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, there's a phenomenon called Catatumbo lightning that just showcases the sheer, relentless energy of our planet. Basically, trade winds constantly collide with the surrounding Andes Mountains, creating the absolute perfect conditions for perpetual electrical storms. We're talking up to 260 storm days a year, firing off an astonishing 28 lightning flashes per minute. It's this never-ending natural fireworks show that's so incredibly bright and reliable, sailors have actually used it historically as a lighthouse for navigation. Over in Death Valley, there are these massive boulders, weighing hundreds of pounds, that just mysteriously glide across the flat desert floor on their own, leaving perfectly carved straight trails right behind them. For decades, this was a complete puzzle. Nobody could figure it out. But it turns out it's actually the result of a really bizarre mix of weather. Rare, extremely thin ice sheets form under the rocks during freezing nights. Then, strong desert winds just gently push these heavy stones as the ice melts, making it look like the rocks are sailing across the sand all by themselves. To really wrap our heads around the mind-boggling scale of the geography on Earth, let's compare our planet to the solar system. Russia covers 17 million square kilometers, spanning an incredible 11 time zones. Now, compare that to the entire surface area of the dwarf planet Pluto, which is only 16.6 million square kilometers. Think about that. You could literally peel the entire surface off Pluto, lay it out flat over Russia, and it still wouldn't cover the whole country. It's just a fantastic reminder of how massive the land masses on our own world truly are. 1.5, that is the height in meters of most of the land in the Maldives above sea level. That's less than 5 feet. The entire country has this tiny variance between its highest and lowest points, making it flatter than a pancake. And while that creates those idyllic, stunning beaches we all love, it also creates an incredibly dangerous existential vulnerability for the people living there. Because of that extreme flatness, the Maldives, which is this beautiful nation made up of nearly 1,200 coral islands, is at severe risk from climate change. Even a minor rise in the ocean puts them in immense peril. Current projections point to a pretty stark reality. Within the next 50 to 100 years, they could become the first fully recognized country in the world to completely disappear beneath the waves. You know, our planet is just packed with these fragile, incredible secrets, from massive continents hidden deep underwater to rivers that boil and delicate coral nations hanging in the balance. With the Earth changing so rapidly, what in the world are we going to uncover next? And more importantly, what mind-bending geographical marvels might we lose forever before we even have the chance to discover them? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next one.